Hulu's Emmy Award-winning series, The Handmaid's Tale, depicts Gilead, a dystopian vision of the future in which women are dehumanized and made subservient to men. One of the leaders of Gilead is Commander Fred Waterford, who demands gratitude for his cruelty. Here's a clip.
Is that all the thanks I get?
We could play Scrabble sometime.
Scrabble?
Yeah. It's been a while. And I think it would be fun. Don't you?
We'll see.
In its second season, the show mirrored topics such as the Me Too movement and immigration. The Handmaid's Tale is nominated for 20 Emmys, and one of those nominees is Joseph Fiennes, who plays Commander Waterford. He is up for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series and joins me now on set. Such a pleasure to have you here, Joseph. I'm a huge fan of your work and of the show, and just binge-watched the second season.
Wow. What a constitution.
So great. Really, Commander Waterford's character has gone through such a transformation from season 1 to season 2. How would you describe it?
Well, he's certainly gone on a bit of an evolution, and what's great about season 2 is we've gotten into a little bit of the backstory of Fred and Serena, which is very helpful to see how people with, to a degree, good intentions, albeit kind of fundamentalist intentions, get so corrupted by power. I think it's an interesting look at the corrosive effects of power. And in Fred, it's been interesting to look at the sort of this male psyche, which is prevalent in many ways in our society, this predator, this abuser of power. And I found that fascinating, but he is human, so my journey's really been about exploring the sort of human nuance within this kind of very evil character.
So what is so interesting about your character is that there are glimpses of kindness and compassion, but yet your character finds ways to turn that to his advantage wherever possible. And it's interesting also because I feel that what your character seems to want more than anything is to never appear weak. Is there some truth to that?
There is. I think fundamentally he is a very, very weak man, and there's a sort of banality to his evil. There's a patheticness, and Margaret Atwood beautifully describes Fred in the book as this sort of pathetic limb that lives inside a hard military boot. And that's a lovely metaphor for who he is. Beneath the exterior is a very weak and fearful man that has to exact his power and his masculinity in the most brutal way.
And it's interesting seeing the power shift between yourself and your wife, Serena. When we see the backstory, we see how she was really the architect in many ways of Gilead, and you were sort of along for the ride, and now the power has completely shifted.
Well, you get that wonderful moment where you see their relationship, the love that Fred had for her voice, her power, her wisdom in their cause,
yes.
and how quickly that dissolves into really Serena having her voice taken away once Gilead comes into effect, and Fred really enjoying his newfound status and power, and really neglecting his wife.
Now, this was a tough season. There were several brutal scenes. You know, there's scenes of depicting rape. There's a lot of violence. What is it like shooting those scenes with the actors?
Well, it's a dark, complex piece, but what I do love about the show is that although it is heavy, it is never gratuitous, and we have to explore the certain aspects of the culture in Gilead. It is essentially a rape culture, but those scenes, as difficult as they are to play and to see, I think they're done as tastefully as you could do them. They're not gratuitous and overdone, but certainly I think for me personally, I've found, so God knows what it's like for Lizzie and Yvonne and the rest of my fellow actors, but I've found it very, very brutal, these scenes to do.
But I agree, they aren't gratuitous. They are, I think, done as tastefully as you can. I've never felt that they're too much.
Well, we live through Lizzie's eyes as this wonderful protagonist who's full of resistance and fight, and often in those moments of brutality or a close-up and a voiceover, so we're really engaging with her and her survival.
Sure.
And her resistance. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to sort of production schedule, I know that there was no way the writers could have known about the family separations that were happening at the border when they were writing those scenes that seemed to mirror exactly what was going on in real life. Were you all sort of astounded at the sort of the parallels that emerged there?
Well, our writers are clairvoyant, and no, I think our writers, like Margaret Atwood and Bruce Miller, our showrunner, have really tapped into something extraordinary creatively, and tapping in to the energy and the psyche of society in the way they do has sort of brought about a parallel between our show and what's happening. But I think it's people who are cognizant of what's going on in society, the movement of that. We've certainly got lucky with certain political movements and the zeitgeist right now, without doubt. But I think it's a testament to the show and what Atwood and the writers are tapping into.
And what do you make of, you know, young women around the world dressing up as handmaids in protest of what they see as a threat against women's reproductive rights?
Well, it's vital, and to have our show and that iconic look of the handmaids become a way of demonstration is kind of heartening for us. And I think for us in the show, it means that we have a great responsibility to that movement and to those voices.
And are you aware how it's touched a nerve with women around the world, this show?
I am, and yeah. I hope that it's touched a nerve also with men.
Yes, yes, certainly.
But for all of us, I think it has, and it really depicts what's going on, what has gone on, which we hope doesn't continue to go on. But as a man and as a husband and as a father to two daughters, it's certainly alerted me and sharpened my outlook and antennae towards what's going on. Incredible
that Margaret Atwood wrote The Handmaid's Tale in the 80s, isn't it?
It is. It's over 3 decades, and she wrote it, I believe, whilst in Berlin. So certainly the ghosts of the history there had played into the narrative, and it just shows us that history has this very uncanny way of repeating itself. So she's locking into that idea of don't go to sleep because
this is what
might come back. These the fundamentalism comes back in waves and dresses up in different disguises.
We have to be on guard.
We have to be on guard.
So, season 3, have you started shooting yet? Is there anything you can tell us?
All I've started is growing my beard. But I imagine that it'll be full of huge empowerment, and I hope it's full of greater resistance. As much as I am passionate about my character, I certainly think he needs some kind of medicine.
I'm so curious at whether the showdown between Commander Waterford, Fred, and his wife, Serena Joy, will come to a head in this next season. No offense, but frankly, my money's on Serena.
Yeah, and mine too, I have to say.
If it happens.
I think it probably will.
Thank you so much for coming to see us today.
Thank you so much.